back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meski, a first-year medical school student. I'm just trying to figure out life in med school, so thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much to, I think, the 106 subscribers that I have right now. Thank you for following me on my journey and just rooting for me. So I don't even know where to begin because it's literally been like 5 months in medical school, but I kid you not, it feels like I've been here for like 30 years. So just kidding, but yeah, it feels like a whole 30 years just because it's been a lot of trying to adjust and just trying to figure out like what works best for me, whether it's like should I meal prep or what kind of studying technique am I gonna do, and just figuring all of that out is just a lot, but it's been good. It's been a lot of improvement. I feel that I have improved not only as a student but also as a person, and as a future care provider, so I'm forever grateful for that. So today the reason that I am here is because it is November, which means that it is interview season. I think I started interviewing November 7th, so a little bit more than a year ago. And so I'm gonna just give tips. Just a huge disclaimer, these tips are based on my experiences as well as some of the tips that some of my peers here gave me. So hopefully these are helpful to you, but please do your own research, look up more videos on YouTube. There's many great videos that have like very specific, questions and many other tips as well, so look into those. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be looking at a piece of paper that I made for you guys, so please don't mind if I'm like constantly looking down. I'm not just like, I don't know, but yeah. So tip number 1, research the type of interview. So this should be very clear from the beginning. I think it's in AMCAS as well, but just research if it's a panel interview or if it's like a multiple mini interview. Those are two very different things, so you want to be prepared for the interview that you're going into. And the second tip number 2 is research the school in itself. So research the activities, research the extracurriculars, research the type of community that your school is in, and how does the school help like the community that's around it. Because at the end of the day, please don't forget, as much as the school is evaluating you, you're also evaluating this if the school fits for you, because you're gonna be there for 4+ years and you want to be happy in wherever place that you're at. So just make sure you're mindful of that and just be very proactive about figuring out where you may end up being in. And tip number 3, this sounds ridiculous, but I promise you this is something that I had to do, and I'm pretty sure many people have had to do, but study yourself. I know this sounds ridiculous just because you should know yourself, but it's really easy to forget any any activities or any clubs that you may have been in years back, because this is a compilation of like all the years, you know, that you're putting into like your resume or into your AMCAS application. So just look back at it. One thing that I did was I printed out my AMCAS application, and the night before my interview, as well as like months prior to that, like preparing for the interview, I looked at that stuff and just reviewed my personal statement and all the different activities that I put on there, because you want to be like on your feet when they ask you questions. You want to be mindful of what you did just so you can answer it. So study yourself. It sounds ridiculous, but I promise you, you should. And then tip number 4 is be ready to explain or justify, because if you have something, you know, that's out of character, like let's say if you have a bad grade on your resume, best believe that they might ask you about that. And in those cases, just be ready to justify yourself, in the sense that you're not throwing yourself a pity party, because no one wants to hear that, but in the sense that you want to explain how you improved sorry guys, how you improved from that, and how you were a better, like, you know, student or person because of that experience. So just don't feel bad for yourself, but rather talk about how you can improve and how you were resilient in that experience, or in that experience, I guess is what you could call it. And then tip number 5, do not forget that your interview starts as soon as you walk into that building or in that premise of the school, and as soon as you walk out as well, because there's a misconception that our interview is just only, within the time slot. So it could be for like 30 minutes or an hour and all that. So people might not behave accordingly. But just remember that you are around people who are all getting a feel for yourself, whether it's the person that's giving you a tour guide or the person that's giving a talk about financial aid. So just be mindful, be kind, and just don't get out of character while you're there. Just remember, your interview starts as you walk in and it ends as soon as you walk out. So just be mindful of that. And then the most important one, of course, is be yourself in all of this. I think that with videos like this or other tips about medical school interviews, it's very easy to get this misconception that you have to be able to answer in this, that. But don't fall into that, because for example, if you're practicing your questions with yourself, you don't want to just memorize that and just literally tell them that, because it's very obvious if it's rehearsed. You want to keep it as fresh as possible, but you also want to give yourself that experience. So with that being said, make sure you try to get any mock interviews, or even just sit in front of the mirror and just try to think about some common questions, and how you would answer them, because you want to be able to figure that out instead of literally taking 3 minutes to think while you're in front of that interviewer, because that's just going to make you more nervous and flustered. And so going on now, I'm just going to do common questions that I had as well as my peers. You should probably know some of these, and the first one is why medicine? Best believe that question will come up. And that question is trying to see, okay, so you want to help people, so why not, a mechanic? Or it could also be referring to why not a PA or a nurse versus a doctor. So you want to be really critical in that, and really just try to figure out why you chose this path of medicine and this path to being a medical doctor versus anything else. For me, it was just the fact that I wanted to be at the forefront of making those decisions, rather than relaying it to someone else and then them making the decisions for my patients. I wanted to do that for myself, so that's my reason. But just please try to figure out your reason prior to your interview. And then the second question that kept coming up was, tell me about yourself. So they want to know about you. And I think a lot of the times people think this is just, listing out your resume all over again, but it's not, because they've most likely seen that stuff, depending on the type of interview style it is, if it's blind or not, but they've most likely seen that stuff. So you want to give them more fresh things, find something that you could perhaps connect to them with, because I think one thing I mentioned was I like hiking and I like art, and I was able to connect with some of my interviewers to the point where my interview became a whole conversation. Because one thing you have to realize is that as much as they're evaluating everything else, they're also evaluating your bedside manners. They want to be certain that you can have conversations with people and be a people's person and all that. So just keep that in mind. And then the other thing was, especially if you're out of state, if you're going to other interviews, they're going to ask you why this school, because they want to know why you chose their school out of any other school. So just be prepared to answer that. This goes back to my previous tip about researching your school. So just be mindful of that school, and just explain how and why you would fit in, and why you would be a great benefit or a great addition to that school, because you are. And so now some random questions that I got that just really threw me off guard was what's the most recent book you've read? I was I don't know, the chemistry textbook. Just kidding, but stuff like that. So I had to really think about it. And one thing I will say is in things like that, just don't lie about it. Be honest. For me, I didn't read any American book close to that time. So the only book that I was reading was an Ethiopian Orthodox book. So I mentioned that he may not have understood what it was, but that just was it. So I didn't lie about it, just own up to it. And the other question that I had, and who was from the dean, was from a scale of 0 to 100, how well do you see yourself doing in this school? And I was just excuse me, what? I was just like so thrown off guard, and I think I said like an 80 or something, because for me it's like I can work up to it, but I'm not gonna be like the best of the best. Like I'm not gonna, I don't know, be cocky about it either, because it's a lot of improvement and it's a whole completely different type of education than I've ever experienced. So that was a really weird one. So just be prepared for like those random questions. Don't just expect those, you know, the basic common questions. And so now I think that is the end of the video. I hope this was helpful to you guys. If it's not, let me know. I can see if I can help you in any other way. Reach out to me personally or anything else. But before I go, I have the verse of the video. Today's verse is Isaiah 40. I think it's 40, 30, 29. I'm sorry, I don't have it written. But it is, he gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. So just remember that God is with you throughout this journey. You wouldn't be here if you weren't supposed to be. So just be very trusting in your journey and realize that you are here for a reason, and you will get to the point that you need to be at, if not now, later. So please just realize that. I hope this video was helpful. Again, please comment, like, and subscribe.